Our next guest is writer and broadcaster Esther Krakue. Esther, welcome back. Look, there was some pretty extensive early reporting about what Prince Harry referred to as a near-catastrophic car chase through the streets of New York. However, as the week progressed, accounts from various others have cast maybe a little bit of doubt on the initial claims from the Sussexes. Can you fill us in on what information's come to light and how the story's evolved over the week?
Well, this press release that was released by the Sussexes just shows kind of how their use of language hasn't matured enough to really understand kind of the repercussions of what could happen. So a near catastrophic car chase, most people were thinking of, you know, Princess Diana and the horrible car accident that she was involved in Paris, which was literally a catastrophic car chase involving loads of paparazzi. When this press release was put forth, many people were questioning how you could possibly have a car chase in Manhattan, given the fact that it's a very densely populated, heavily regulated city like London. I mean, I remember making the point that you couldn't actually have a car chase in somewhere like London because you would end up in Kent. It's literally impossible. There's so many cameras and speed controls. So it was mainly the language that they used that caused confusion. And also the mayor of New York, Eric Adams, came out and said, you know, they are reviewing the footage of the Sussexes' car during that night, but he really doubts that it could have been a car chase just because of the logistics of that and how impossible it seems. So it's mainly a language issue, but also it's a huge failure in security. There are many security professionals that have come out saying, you know, they don't understand why the Sussexes security detail didn't actually include how to get them to the event and get them out of the event back home safely. One of their security personnel said that they moved the couple into a taxi in a bid to try and avoid the paparazzi, but obviously they didn't cover up Meghan's bright gold dress, so she stood out like a sore thumb anyway. But then there were questions being raised about why you would want to get this couple into an unsecure vehicle like a taxi to try and avoid the paparazzi, when really they should have accounted for the fact that there would be major paparazzi at this event and find a way to get them to their destination safely. So these are the conflicting reports that have come from the couple's press release, and it's very confusing because, you know, they implied that the relentless pursuit of the paparazzi could have endangered many people. But again, all the footage and all the evidence that's coming out has said that there have been no injuries. No one was even remotely injured. They claimed that there were two NYPD PD officers that were almost injured. Again, we've not heard any kind of corroborating reports from the NYPD themselves. So it's a very confusing story, should I say. And it just goes to show that the Sussexes really didn't put in a lot of thought into just basically the security detail with regards to this event, but also why they chose to move to the US in particular, which has the loosest paparazzi laws in the world, to pursue their own privacy. It doesn't even make sense. It would make sense to move somewhere like France that has really high, you know, really stringent paparazzi laws. But if they're going to move to somewhere like the US and then complain about paparazzi, it doesn't really make sense because they knew that the paparazzi laws are very loose over there.
Well, that is really quite right. And look, by all means, if something happens, whether it's the Sussexes or anyone else, you know, give an account. But, you know, make sure you give an accurate account. Do you think that any of that potential embellishment or perhaps, you know, a little bit of carelessness around the words used, do you think that then gets used to reinforce people's views about Meghan and Harry?
I think so, indirectly, and I don't think that was what the couple set out to do. Again, like I said, I don't think their press team really understand the nuance of language. This was why being in the royal family was effectively a blessing in disguise, because the royal family are media trained. I don't think you could find a more media savvy institution in the world. And you know, people's immediate reaction were, obviously, thankfully, no one was hurt. This is still a couple with young children. We don't want anyone to be hurt, neither the couple or anyone involved, including the drivers or the pedestrians, all of that. But it just goes to show that accuracy and, you know, really branding is extremely important, especially to a couple like the Sussexes that have really lost a lot of credibility since their shenanigans after leaving the royal family. And it's really quite unfortunate because I do think that they were shaken. I do think that they weren't expecting this. But again, it's a massive failure in security above everything else because really they pay, I'm pretty sure they pay a lot of money to their security team to protect them, to keep them safe. Of course, they're public figures, they're persons of interest, and I just don't understand how they could have been in a situation where they were attending an event and they didn't have the ability to get to and from the event safely. Apparently, they decided to go and stay at a friend's house instead of going to the hotel that they had booked because they didn't want the paparazzi to know where they were staying. It's all just very confused, and I really don't understand why their security team didn't factor this in more.
There's also been criticism about the royal family apparently not reaching out to Harry and Meghan after this incident. Does that surprise you?
It does not surprise me. Of course, we actually don't know whether they've reached out and they don't want, the press to know, or they haven't reached out. A report from the Telegraph has said, speculating that they actually haven't reached out. We don't know this, but again, I don't think it does anyone any favors to kind of speculate about whether the royal family have reached out or not. This is a family that it's not a secret. There's a bit of bad blood, particularly between the brothers, but also between King Charles and the Sussexes. We know that they didn't leave the royal family under very happy circumstances, and also the kind of media exposés that the couple have engaged in have also not been particularly well taken by the royal family, to put it diplomatically. So it's not surprising that reports are saying that they haven't reached out. I don't think we should try and, force some sort of reunion. Everyone has family issues. Everyone knows, you have the awkward uncle that you don't really want to see, or, family members that are just not really your cup of tea, but I don't think it's surprising. I also think it's a bit hypocritical to assume that the royal family should reach out. Why aren't we asking why the Sussexes haven't reached out? Did Meghan even congratulate the king on a successful coronation? We don't know any of this, but we're not asking those questions. So I think these are the kinds of things that are just trying to generate bad blood where there might not even be any.
Now, we know that even though Harry and Meghan have left the royal family, they still have projects and interests which they support and champion. They're entitled to do that, and there's absolutely no objection from me. However, this week, Meghan and Harry have been accused of cosplaying working royals. Is that a bit unfair?
I think it's not unfair. I think it's actually quite accurate. I think one of the things that I've noticed is the Sussexes really overestimated the power of their brand. I don't think they were in the royal family long enough to make the kind of exits that they wanted, which is basically them being an offshoot of the royal family but doing their own form of service. I don't think they've made much of a success of it because they really overestimated the power of their own brand as a couple. They were only in the royal family for a couple of years. They didn't engage in that many public engagements. They didn't really have an opportunity to be embedded in the public psyche. So I don't think that they really understood the kind of mammoth task that they had to really try and up their PR game and really ingratiate themselves in the public as a credible team of do-gooders and charity workers or whatever they wanted to do after leaving the royal family. And so now they've really just shot themselves in the foot because they've come out with this Netflix documentary, they've written this media expose, I suspect they're going to come out with more books. They've done all these things that have really cheapened their brand. And so now people are just wondering, are you really in it for anything other than yourselves? Because you've really taken this entire time to just enrich yourselves. And so people are, I suppose, just over them. They're just over everything that the Sussexes have to say. They seem really disingenuous. They seem like they don't really have any causes that they're trying to champion other than their own pockets and bank accounts. And this is something I don't think the couple really thought about when they were leaving the royal family. I think they thought their brand was more powerful than it actually was.
We'll get on to the brand in a second, but do you think then perhaps the criticism of the Sussexes is more born of them trying to have their cake and eat it too?
Absolutely. I think it's really unfortunate that they didn't have the resources of the royal family to really warn them about the mammoth task they had ahead. Because this is not something that you can just hire a few graduates from university to try and put out press releases and put together events and all of that. It's an intricate task. This is why the royal family is called the firm. It's an entire organization. And so I think the Sussexes, even when they left the royal family and they tried to, use the brand Sussex Royal, I just think they didn't understand it. They also had, I think they were trying to be celebrities, and that's what really made the difference, because the royal family are not celebrities, they're public servants, and that's really what kind of angered the public, because they're effectively cheapening the royal family brand and trying to be sort of American-esque royal family by default, and that's just not how it works.
And look, we've spoken several times before about the need for the Sussexes to maintain a level of publicity in order to maintain their commercial value. With the coronation over and the family dramas, let's hope, largely ventilated, does it become increasingly difficult for them to find relevance?
Absolutely. And I think that's part of the reason why Meghan chose to attend this event, because many people were curious why she chose to attend this event and not the King's coronation, which would have probably made her more relevant than this event that she went to. But the reality is they've really struggled to carve their own path in a way that maintains the kind of relevance and social standing that they wanted. I don't think they really want to engage in acts of public service while knowing that the public are sneering and laughing and just completely not interested in what they have to say. And I think that's the difference between the Sussexes and Princess Diana. I think Princess Diana understood this, and I think Princess Diana was also more tactful in the way that she engaged with the public. I think the Sussexes have completely, missed the mark, particularly Harry, who surprisingly has been a royal his entire life but didn't understand these nuances. I actually say that being in the royal family really saved his public reputation, because they made him a lovable character. They made him that boisterous, funny, charming, Queen's grandson that was a bit cheeky, and his public reputation has tanked ever since he left, because he's not had the protection of the royal family, and everything that he said has just been taken at face value and has really come back to bite him.
Now, we know that the royal family, including Princess Kate, they do support a number of not-for-profits and other community organisations. And while they may be patrons, they're not necessarily involved in the management of these bodies. Look, it's been reported this week that a charity which Kate is patron of has been suspended after a damning report by an inspector. Now, can you run us through what's happened here, and how do the royal family manage their involvement and association in light of these sorts of allegations?
Well, it's really it's a very tricky business. We know that this particular charity, Action for Children, has also been patronised by other celebrities like Sir Trevor McDonald and Emily Maitlis. So obviously it's not just the Princess of Wales, but it does have repercussions, because the royal family have to be very careful about the kind of organisations that they support. One positive thing that's come out of this is knowing that the authorities are on their job and that they are protecting children, and that this investigation has found wrongdoing and is acting upon it. It would be far worse if the investigation didn't come out with anything concrete that was actually meant to protect children. That would be a far worse blowback on the royal family. But of course, they can't control all of these things. They don't control the day-to-day management of these organisations. They have enough on their plate. So I think the public are quite understanding of that. And also the fact that this particular charity has been patronised by other celebrities, and they're not getting any sort of blame for it. But yes, it is a tightrope to walk, certainly.
Now, one last one, and just as a juxtaposition, Prince Ludwig of Bavaria got married this week. Look, it's been in the media, but without the fuss and flurry of British royal weddings. Is this just a product of a cultural difference, Esther?
Absolutely. And it's also, the fact that Germany has no royal family. This is a distant relative of the last king of Bavaria. So it's not really that, I suppose, culturally relevant just because Germany no longer has a royal family. But there are other sort of minor royal pretenders, should I say, in Europe, like, the Prince of Romania, that like to keep that lineage to their royal families. But even the European countries that do still have their royal families, they're very low-key. They don't exercise as much influence or soft power as the British royal family, of course. But there are also cultural differences as well. The Scandinavian countries that have royal families, they're more conservative, should I say. They're more streamlined. So it is a significant cultural difference, but it's also has to do with the amount of influence that they have in general in the society and the world at large.
Excellent speaking with you. Thank you so much, Esther Krakue, for joining us.